What is the creepiest thing you have experienced that you still think about to this day? On a family vacation, when I was a kid, renting a beach condo. The unit next door was a regular residence, and we met the family, nice people. They were leaving at the end of the week for their own trip, but the daughter had to work one more overnight shift as a nurse. The dad and the younger kids left that day and the mother and daughter were going to leave the next morning and catch up with them. That morning, as we were packing up our own stuff to go home, we started hearing sirens out on the road in front of the condos. There were several emergency vehicles outside, and eventually an air revoc helicopter landed on the road and took off with a gurney, rolled out of the unit next to us. A while later, we got the story. The daughter had come home from her shift and found the mother beaten to death with a hammer or something similar. We hadn't heard or seen anything, even though we shared a wall. The creepiest part was that the officers found that the killer had accessed the house by the back porch door, facing the beach. The bedroom me and my brothers were sleeping in was down on the ground floor, with the same porch door leading out to the beach, only a few feet away from that same door and only separated by a waist-high rail. Talking about it later, we weren't even sure we had locked the door that night. When I was about 8 or 9, my mom's friends took us to see the puppy they were going to buy. The owner offered us to walk the parent dogs, 2 Rottweilers. I remember their names till this day. They were super friendly and walked off leash with the 2 kids of my mom's friend and myself. When we arrived in a grassy area surrounded by trees, a tall guy approached us. He grabbed my shoulder and the dogs went completely nuts. I remember he had a mirror and tried shining light into the dog's eyes. The mother dog stayed circling me while I ran to the house and the other dog chased after this guy until he was gone. It was terrifying, but what really stands by me is that those dogs didn't know me from before, yet they protected me and my friends as if their lives depended on it. When me and my mom moved to a new house, she had some redecorating to do. One of the things she wanted to change was to get some new curtains for our bathroom. The curtains in there were torn, dirty, brown and just ugly AF. So she bought some new curtains. As she is quite short, she can't reach our attic, which is where she wanted to store the old curtains. It was rented, so we couldn't throw them away, so I put the curtains into a box then put them into the attic. The new curtains went up. All is good. The next day, when I come home from school, the horrible dirty curtains are back up in the bathroom. New curtains are nowhere to be seen. I asked my mom why she had changed the curtains back over. She was terrified, had no idea how it happened. Still bothers me to this day. So, I was about 12 at the time, and it was around 2 AM one day, and I was playing Counter-Strike with friends. We're in a call as I hear a door slam, and it was quite a loud one, loud enough for me to hear through my headphones. I was freaked and just froze in my chair and took off my headphones, and then I heard footsteps. I was sure someone broke in or something, but I was too afraid to get out of my room. Everything was silent after a few seconds, and there was no one in our house. The door was locked as it was before, and it seemed like everything was back to normal, so I tell my friends I'm logging off, and I tried to go to sleep. It took me ages before I could fall asleep, but eventually I did. The next morning, I tell my mom about what happened. Her face went white. She told me she had dreamed about my dad, and she told me the dream. He came to our house, slammed the door, and woke her up with the sound of the slam. She was so excited to see him, and she hugged him and kissed him, and they went into my room, where they saw me playing video games, and my dad told her that I grew up so much and was really happy to see me. He taught me how to play Counter-Strike when I was like 5-ish years old. My dad has passed away when I was 6. Heart failure. It's still creeping me out to this day. Doing acid during the zombie walk in college around Halloween time, which I had forgotten was happening until I hit the main street. That was a surprise to be sure. But the creepiest real life thing was last August when I was scammed. I got a text from someone claiming to be my neighbor I hadn't heard from in years. They said they were in need of money and nobody was helping them, blah blah blah, sob story. I knew they were bullshitting me, but they knew my neighbor and I's home addresses, so I tried to pry and lead them on to get more info for the authorities, but without revealing any more info. This fact that they knew where we lived disturbed me. They wanted to meet somewhere in DC, so I could give them money. I jokingly said I was currently in DC and said we should meet. We had a time to meet up. I called the number and it said it was a Text Now subscriber. I finally asked them why they were using a Text Now account and they came clean and said they were just ducking with me. There was a thunderstorm soon after which knocked out my cell service. When I got it back, I found that someone in Minnesota had used my debit card info to buy over $1,000 of stuff from Kohl's, Best Buy, and an Uber ride. All this happened within about 4 hours. I'm 90% sure this was the same person, but I don't know what their angle was with actually meeting up. Was it a decoy to distract me? Was it two separate incidents and I could have been kidnapped? I don't know. I filed a police report. Was shopping with my father and got in line to check out when he realized he forgot something and went to grab it. My 2-year-old daughter was looking at the candy when a man got in line behind me and said to my daughter, "Don't wander away from mom or someone like me will snatch you." He didn't say someone would snatch you, he said me. I grabbed my daughter and put her in the cart and he just stood there, staring at her. I was about to leave when my father showed up and this man said, "Oh, you've got a big guy with you," got out of line and left. I felt for sure his plan was to try and take her when we got in the parking lot. I think my 6'4" father made him rethink it. I still think about that creepy guy. I got catfished by an old man on a dating app. I was in a lonely and quite vulnerable time within my life back then. I was looking for a good time and just wanted to be with someone. I was a bit shaken up for maybe a week after it happened, but I eventually got over it and moved on with my life. There was this young and really attractive dude, or so I thought, whose profile I came across. I was about 20 at the time. We spoke and we exchanged pics and messages. We planned to meet up. He gave me an address, and later in the day I took an Uber to that address. I was standing around for hours. It was really dark and was getting late in the night. I had previously knocked on the door of the address, then resorted to standing around near the address to see if I'd get a message or response. Nothing. I sent him so many messages with no responses, and I was disappointed, but I didn't give him trouble about it. More so disappointed about the wasted Uber money than I was with him, because it wasn't exactly the cheapest ride there and back. The next day, on the dating app I was using, he sent me some story about something happening with someone in his family. I don't exactly remember it, but thinking back I can't believe I actually believed him when he told me. I felt so stupid. That same day as we're talking, all is forgiven, and we chalk it up to sometimes set just happens, and we plan to meet up again at a much earlier time. I came to the same address. As I'm knocking on the door, I don't get a response and I look around. But this time, I see an old man sitting in a black car across the street from the house and he's just staring at me. He was staring, as if I was candy, that he just couldn't resist, and he just had to have me. I waited around a bit longer. The old man is still there just staring at me, and I get a little uncomfortable and worried. That's when it hit me. He was the young and really attractive dude that I'd been talking to this entire time. I didn't know what to do upon the realization, but I wasn't going to confront him. I remember being so ducking angry followed by sadness. I got an Uber to go back, and I blocked him on the app after sending him a nasty message. Don't know if he saw it or not before I blocked him, but I didn't care. But he didn't stop there. He followed the Uber that I was in. I kept a watchful eye out for his car. I was so damn terrified, but was relieved that he ended up losing us on the highway. I never saw him again after that, but I'll never forget the disgusting and snarky look that he had on his face as he was staring at me. Just seemingly so proud of what he did. I couldn't think straight for a solid week after that. The wasted money, the emotional trauma, and the pure anger. I learned an important lesson about being safer on dating apps and teaching myself that sometimes we are just vulnerable and we shouldn't get so caught up in that. When I was a kid, my mom took my cousins, sister and myself to a relative's house to visit. All the adults went out that night and left the house full of kids behind with a babysitter. We had a good time playing with our distant cousins. It came time to go to bed, and my sister and I were put in a room with bunk beds with some of the cousins. All the younger cousins fell asleep pretty fast. My cousin, who is near my age, and I stayed up talking. When we both started to get tired and start to fall asleep, all of a sudden we heard a scream and looked up out the window to see a man jumping off the front porch. The house was shaped like an L and the window to the room we were in faced the porch. Needless to say, we both got freaked out and didn't want to move. However, one of us mustered the strength to get up and run into the living room to get the babysitter. When we told her what happened, she called her boyfriend over, who came with a pistol and checked all around the house. She gathered all us kids together and we all slept on pallets in the living room. When I talked to my cousin and mother about it years later, neither of them have any recollection of it at all. I know I didn't dream it. I know it happened. However, it's disappointing that I'm the only one that remembers this event. I was maybe 19 and at a dinner's around 1 AM eating some drunk food with friends. There was this really sketchy looking group of guys eating across the restaurant, but I was drunk and high and I didn't really notice too much. Eventually I had to pee, so I went to the bathroom. While I'm peeing in the urinal, the lights go off with an audible click. I'm sure I'm about to get mugged, so I duck my head and rush the door, cutting off my urine steam and barely getting myself back in my pants as I barge out of the bathroom. I stumbled back to my friends and noticed their sketchy dudes were no longer at their table. I'm pretty sure I narrowly dodged a blow to the back of the head. I did eventually notice the guys return to their table, I think, but I was so out of it that I didn't see them arrive. I would have had zero chance of defending myself in that state. Okay. That is the video. Please like and subscribe, or else I will cry. Goodbye.